Hello and welcome to the 25th episode of ETCIO Leaders Live. I'm Sneha Jha, editor at ETCIO and your host for the session. Today, as we celebrate 25 episodes of ETCIO Leaders Live, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to all our guests who have generously given their time and insights on a wide range of topics we covered during this series. I also want to extend my gratitude to my video team for putting together this live session each week. And a big thank you to all our listeners for joining us every Thursday and supporting us along the way. Now, one might argue that in the scheme of anniversaries, 25th is not all that momentous. But if your guest is one of the most powerful women business leaders in the banking industry, it sure is memorable. Memorable and really mega. I could not be more thrilled to welcome my guest for the 25th episode of ETCIO Leaders Live. She is Anita Pai, Chief Operating Officer for Yes Bank. Anita Pai is a Senior Group President and Chief Operating Officer with Yes Bank. In this role, she is responsible for technology, digital banking, and operations. Prior to this, Anita was with the ICICI Group for 21 years. She worked with ICICI Bank as the Senior General Manager and Head for Branch Banking Service, ATM Business, and Phone Banking. Prior to this role, until June 2018, Anita was responsible for global operations of ICICI Bank, including treasury and credit mid offices. She was also responsible for heading customer service at ICICI Bank. Anita was a founding member of ICICI Prudential Life Insurance Company and was with them from inception till March 2010. As the Executive Vice President, she was in charge of customer service, operations, technology, and infrastructure. Anita, it's wonderful to have you in the 25th episode of ETCIO Leaders Live. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Sneha. It's a big honor to join you on this 25th episode. And I would say that 25 is a big deal. I'm just very sad that it's happening virtually. I'm missing the cake.
So, Anita, you have an extensive experience in handling operations, customer service, innovation, and service improvement. And banks today are driving revolutionary and evolutionary changes in these business areas through innovation. So I thought if you could help me unpack the innovation equation in these business functions. And I'm really excited about this conversation and this topic. Now, banking is a dynamic sector which has industry peers who are either early adopters or fast followers. When you make innovation central to your products, services, platforms, and customer relationships, it can be replicated by other banks soon enough. So the competitive differentiation is not very enduring. But so that's the reason there is an immense pressure to constantly evolve new innovation strategies and tactics. Now, as the COO, how do you translate those competitive strategies and tactics into operations?
So you're right. There's a lot of activity that's happening in the ecosystem. There are new platforms coming up, new offerings, new innovations. So there's a lot of activity. I think at the same time, there's a lot of noise. And it is for every bank to constantly sieve through all of this and figure out what is the space that they want to play in. Every bank is in a different space in its own growth and evolution journey. Every bank has different customer segments that they are targeting. And we have to make sure that what we are prioritizing makes sense to our customers. So the first wave of, if you ask me, innovation that actually happened is around payments. And I think the last 2 years of COVID has actually accentuated the use of payments in the non-traditional ways. So whether it's the use of UPI as a payment methodology, and with all the, yesterday, the day before's budget talking about the new digital currency, etc. I think the payment space is the one that has got probably the most amount of attention. So what did we do at Yes Bank? I think one of the things that we did was to look at the uh, payment systems. We looked at use cases. We looked at our customer segments, and then worked with various fintechs to figure out collaboratively and co-create solutions which may be innovative or which just may be what is available in the market, but can be made available at scale to the customer segment that we choose. So let me try and give you a couple of examples. So like different customer segments, like I've talked about twice in the last few minutes. So let's take a customer segment that's very comfortable with digital. Okay. And earlier, if you had a cross-border amount of money that was reaching you, if you remember about maybe 10 years back, you had to go to the exchange houses, brick and mortar office, show your credentials and take the money in cash. And then the last few, maybe a decade, money was getting converted and hitting your bank account directly. We've now gone to the next level. And we've said that if you have a virtual card, why can't you get that money which gets converted and directly loads into a virtual card, which is then available for spending immediately? So that is a set of use cases in the payment innovation ecosystem that we're looking at. On the other hand, a large part of India, our population, does not have easy access to maybe a bank branch or to an ATM, but yet they do have bank accounts and they do have a debit card. And a micro ATM, okay, is what serves this set of people the best. We entered the micro ATM space less than a year ago. It is part of the whole, we worked with NPCI, it's part of the whole NPCI ecosystem. And I can tell you that in less than a year, we have almost 13% market share in this space. So which shows that, if you are able to figure out what makes sense, work with the relevant ecosystem, the payment system networks, you will have a winning case. And as a CEO, my responsibility is to constantly look at what is available, what makes the most sense, because every time you prioritize, you're actually pushing down a couple of other opportunities to go to market with some other product or another customer segment. So you have to be very sure that what you're looking at will give you the bang for the buck.
Right, absolutely, Anita. I think what you said is really relevant because, this is a time when banks are facing competition not just from the traditional high street banks, but also from the non-traditional competition like the big techs and the fintechs and the neo-digital banks who are leveraging technology to push the boundaries of banking per se. So there needs to be innovation in the payment segment, in better customer service, better understanding of the customer segments and their requirements, and then driving innovation accordingly. Now, how can banks address the immediate business needs and still build a vision for the future? How do you ensure that you don't get consumed by the routine day-to-day operations and keep an eye on the constantly evolving competitive landscape? Because you need to organize and operate your bank business for maximum innovation success.
So I think this is a age-old problem of how do you ensure that you put the right focus and the right resources on the urgent versus the important. So I think
Correct.
it's an age-old question. If you don't handle it right, you don't have a future to look to. So what is there today, making sure your customers get your today's customers who are expecting services from you do get what they need at the right time is critical, and there is no way out of it. It's a no-brainer. You have to put your best foot forward and ensure that that works. But like you correctly said, I think, there's so much change that's happening. Our competition is changing. Who are our competitors, like you correctly said, is changing. The customer preferences are changing, customer behavior is changing.
Absolutely.
Technology is evolving all the time, and regulation is also evolving all the time. So, given all of these four, there is no way that we can stay stagnant at all. So, we have to be constantly looking at what we have to do to be future ready. And I think it will be remiss of us if we don't put the right focus, the right resources, and the right energy behind ensuring that while probably a large part of our time, focus, and energy go into making sure that today's customers are serviced well, we have to put a similar amount of focus on ensuring that we are identifying new products, new ecosystems, new partnership models, and making it work for our customers. So I think there is no choice of doing this or this. It's doing both, and that's where I think the leadership of every bank, every organization is. This is the fight for resources and the fight for getting the share of mind within the bank. Yeah.
Correct, correct. So, Anita, you rightly spoke about the changing business priorities and how you constantly need to adapt your business plan and strategy according to it. Now, when it comes to your immediate priorities under the vectors of growth, profitability, and competitive differentiation, what are some of the steps you've taken to drive each of these?
So I would say we have two key priorities. One is growth. If you see the history of the Yes Bank, we had a couple of years where we were not as active as we would have liked to be. But we've actually put all of that back on
Behind
the
us.
treadmill to SACE, and we are focusing on adding new branches. We're constantly looking at increasing the number of customers that we're onboarding, the number of products that we are able to offer to our customers. So this is all completely on the most important thing that the bank is currently focusing on. At the same time, we're looking at making sure that every customer contact is done more efficiently. And that's where the profits are going to come from. That every platform that we build, every time that we meet a customer, how can you get more out of that customer visit? So whether it's building a customer 360, which helps our RMs sell the next product to the customer, nudge the customer into doing more with us, I think we are constantly looking at how do you ensure that every time that the customer is in touch with the bank, that we are able to make it more efficient and give us more for the same amount of effort. Growth is very key, and growth comes in all ways: more customers, more products, more platforms, and everything that we do. We're constantly looking at making the cost of sale, the cost of service being more efficient than what it was. And today, with tools that are available, which is you're able to get a CIBIL score of a customer within seconds. You're able to authenticate a customer through the UIDAI. Everything is today a matter of seconds, milliseconds actually, and making use of every opportunity, trying to ensure that our cost of sale or cost of service is more efficient. I think these are our two key priorities. With this, I think profits will follow. It is but natural. And the point on competitive differentiation, I think that doing a differentiation for the sake of it is not something that we want to do. If the customer demands it, it's not available in the market, and we are in a position to understand the customer's requirement and make it available, that is something we will do. Or if we're able to do it faster, cheaper, better, then that too. But I really would not want to do something just to prove a differentiation with the competition, but rather focus my energy on the customer and do what the customer is demanding of us. at the platform of choice of the customer, the place of choice of the customer. And that I think will give me, an added advantage and an added differentiation.
Very well articulated, Anita, and this point that you raised about creating competitive differentiation only when the customer asks for it. And that's a perfect segue into my next question, where I want to understand from you, because innovation initiatives should solve a real problem or answer a significant question for the customer. It should respond to a real world need of the customer, like you said in your previous response. Now, if an innovation does not understand the customer or his problem, it is on a quick road to a short shelf life. So, can you talk about your own vision for innovation that enhances customer experience?
So I think customers, if you ask me, are very rational and have very simple requirements. I think the first requirement every customer has is give me consistent service. Don't surprise me each time. Either way, so if I expect something in 10 minutes, give it to me in 10 minutes. Don't give it to me after an hour. And I'm not really looking for it to get it in the next 1 minute. That's not going to change my so I think consistency of service is what customers want, and normally consistency at the platform of choice. So I may be a customer who's happy to walk into a branch. I may be a customer who prefers to do everything on mobile. It's my choice, and the bank should treat me with consistent service wherever I go. I think that's the first fundamental way I look at customer service. The second is actually, I think customers like their requirements being anticipated. So anticipate customer requirements and nudge the customer into doing what we believe that the customer may benefit out of. So it may be another sale, it could be just completing some compliance requirements or something that's good for the customer. So for example, you see that this customer's balances are building up. You may keep telling the customer, are you adequately, do you have an FD, do you have insurance, or something as simple as which may not be financial, but do you have a nomination? We recognize that you don't have a nomination in your account, and we would strongly recommend you to go for it. So I think anticipate customer requirements and nudge the customer into whichever way we think that it's good for the customer to go. And all of this means underlying, you're doing a lot of data analytics, you are understanding customer behavior, patterns of behavior, and then you're actually basing your recommendations to the customer or your nudges to the customer based on data, not just a gut that, okay, this person is this age, and so I think we should. I think that's not the way. And the third and most critical part of any customer service organization is giving the customer an opportunity to give feedback. Give the customer the platform of giving the feedback. Not everybody is going to call you and tell you when they are unhappy. A lot of people just vote with their feet; they just move on. But there is a lot of opportunity between that to understand that the customer is not really happy with you, or the customer is very happy with you, in which case you can actually push the customer to give you more references, etc. So either way, I think ability to be able to pull feedback from a customer is something which is the third tenet of good service. Because finally, irrespective of whatever we say, we do, I think, 4 areas of work with the customer. We onboard customers, we service them through their lifetime that the account is with us. In this lifetime, we ask them to refer customers to their friends and relatives to us so that we can onboard them. And the last is that we want them to repeat sales, cross sell, or whatever we call it. So it's just 4 things. It is not more complicated than all of this. And if you can get your thought processes right, I think most customers will be happy and most customers will sustain with you.
Right, absolutely. Now, Anita, you spoke earlier about the changing ecosystem, and in line with that, yes, bank in 2018 launched its in-house multi-sector startup accelerator, Yes Scale, and this 15-week program was aimed at creating financial innovation by sourcing, scaling, and sustaining emerging technology solutions in the sunrise sectors of the Indian economy by addressing the three biggest scale-up challenges faced by technology startups around commercialization, funding support, and mentorship. Now, what are some of the benefits you derived from the program and how has it sustained?
So I think the program was a resounding success, and I think it was a win-win. So the startups which actually went through this 15-week program uh, got a lot of advantages. They did get mentorship. They did get use case validation. A lot of startups had come up with ideas, but they are not really sure whether in the real world uh, does it really meet with a requirement that a customer has or a pain area that the customer has. And a use case validation is something that most of them look forward to. They got ideas on how valuable their ideas are and what sort of commercialization that they can actually look forward to. So I think they benefited a lot. As a bank, we too benefited. We sort of actually met with about 1,500 odd startups, and about 20 of them, even today, we have very deep relationships, which have moved into a full-fledged customer relationship. So I think it's been an excellent win-win program. Uh, Yes Bank continues to be a very key part of the whole startup ecosystem. Today, if you look at the unicorns of India, about 50% of them or more of them bank with us. If I look at the sandbox, one of the recent sandboxes in RBI, which was, I think, to do with cross-border remittances, of the 8 sandboxes, 5 had Yes Bank as the sponsor bank. So I think Yes Bank has always been part of the digital and the startup economy, and the Yes Scale further, accentuated the role of Yes Bank, and we've continued to be there today. But I think all banks, if you ask me, have this as part of their outreach to startups. In fact, recently you may have read that RBI itself has started a fintech department.
Correct, innovation.
So I think today the world is very different from what it was just 3 years back in 2018. And today, all of what we started out the Yes Scale program for is available with a lot of banks and is part of the DNA everywhere, but definitely much more entrenched, I would feel, in Yes Bank.
Right. Now, Anita, the other important aspect that I wanted to discuss with you was about women leaders in the banking industry. Now, the BFSI vertical employs a very large number of women. However, there aren't too many women in the senior executive positions. What do you think is the reason behind this?
Very vexing question. And I think the last 2 years of COVID has actually made it worse, if you ask me.
Absolutely.
The last 2 years of COVID, if you ask me, in one way, actually made flexible working, working from home, working from anywhere, a very key part of how all organizations are working. Okay, so you'd have thought that it is something that a lot of the women leaders at particular ages, etc., would actually look forward to. So while all of this has happened, I'm not really seeing that these have made such a big impact that women are continuing in, especially in those times of their life when they find it difficult to manage both work as well as the family requirements. So generally, we see that at marriage, or more often than not at the birth of children, that a lot of women tend to attrite of the workforce. So yes, you're right. We in our junior categories, we have a lot of women across the industry, and it thins out tremendously when you hit the middle and the senior management. Banks and I think a lot of the organizations have done as much as they can. So being a senior woman leader, I am involved in a lot of the uh, conversations with women, and I find that my is that whatever it can be done from the organization side in terms of helping them with flexible working hours, helping them with longer leave post the birth of a child, helping them with travel with assisted travel. So we can actually, when they're traveling outstation on work, they can take the child along with a nanny or something, or a family member. Everything, if you ask me, whatever has been articulated as being areas for which women struggle to continue, organizations have provided for it. But yet it has not had the impact. Um, Finally, my personal view on this is that the need to make a difference or to make a contribution, the need to be making good use of the fine education that we've been lucky that our parents gave us, and the need to be financially independent. Okay, all of this comes from within. Okay, so it's very difficult to force it on somebody, and you know this is a question that I know that a lot of organizations are struggling with, and I'm not sure we've still found the right answer, or the right set of probably we haven't even understood the psyche, uh, is my sense. You know.
Right. Now, Anita, in your previous avatar, you were with the ICICI Group, where you got your early grounding in the tenets of banking. And ICICI Bank has made a name for itself for recognizing and promoting female talent. At one point, it was a talent farm for women business leaders, where we had the likes of Shikha Sharma, Lalita Gupte, Zareen Daruwala, Chanda Kochar, Kalpana Morparia. The list just goes on. So, are organizations taking any steps to fix this gap that we just discussed? And do you think an approach like ICICI Bank took would help change this trend? What should the women employees do themselves, and what should the organizations do to proactively support their efforts? What do you think banks should be doing proactively to ensure that there are more senior executive management positions that women hold?
So, like you correctly said, the ICICI group at that point in time, over 10 years ago, was probably an organization which helped to grow and deliver many female leaders for the industry. Uh, but I would think that today they're in the same boat as most other organizations, where with that set of women leaders having, gone out, there aren't that many that will will that are available today, even in the
So why
ICICI
is it,
group.
why wasn't it such a sustainable effort? Why is there not a ready talent pool of women leaders?
So, I like I said earlier, it is for the women to figure that out. It is not for. I think organizations have done pretty much whatever they can for every problem that has been stated or understood. But beyond this, it is for the women to make up their minds and to actually want to make a difference. So, that's my take on it. So it's not. I really don't think it's anything that organizations have not done or not done enough of, including the ICCI group. So, I would sort of, and what should women leaders do? So, one of the things that we've put in place here in Yes Bank, we just kicked it off actually to say that there may be certain additional, given the certain different styles that women bring to the table. Maybe they need to help to strengthen what brings a lot of value, and to help them through workshops, maybe through courses, etc., training courses, etc. And that's something that we've kicked off, and I do believe it will make a difference. But what will be the final impact? I think only time will.
On that positive note, we will conclude this episode of ETCIO Leaders Live. Well, Anita, thank you so much for joining me today and being a part of the 25th episode of ETCIO Leaders Live. It's been a really interesting conversation. Thanks once again for sharing your perspective on a host of topics ranging from innovation, your vision of customer experience, competitive differentiation, growth, the ecosystem play, and the new ways of fostering women business leaders. A big thank you to our audience for listening in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Anita and found it engaging and insightful. I'll be back next week with another interesting episode of ETCIO Leaders Live. Follow us on social media to find out who's our guest for the next week. Until next time, this is your host, Sneha Jha, signing off.